Доброго дня, друзі! Щоденний брифінг присвячений
Good afternoon, friends. Our daily briefing is devoted to refuting the fakes and propaganda of the aggressor state, and let's talk about the first reaction to Viktor Medvedchuk's appeal to President Zelensky and President Putin to swap him for the defenders and residents of Mariupol. Medvedchuk made such an appeal through social media channels. So, first of all, they say that the Ukrainian Gestapo forced Medvedchuk to record an appeal to Putin to exchange him, Medvedchuk, for the exit of the Nazis and foreign mercenaries surrounded in Mariupol. This was published by the well-known Russian propagandist Solovyov on his Telegram channel as soon as Medvedchuk's appeal was made. The Kiev regime has put its last trump card into play so that no one will know what important foreign bigwigs are hiding in the basements of Azovstal. This was stated by Solovyov. Well, what's the answer to that? First of all, it is a lie that Medvedchuk made his statement under pressure. We have all been watching Medvedchuk in politics for 25 years. His facial expressions, his pattern of behavior, there is nothing to indicate that this statement was made under pressure. Second, as for the foreign mercenaries and foreign bigwigs hiding in the basement of Azovstal, this is a lie. There are Ukrainian defenders there. They have been defending the city from the occupying state for more than a month and a half, and by and large, this tactic instantly showed itself to be a reflection. As soon as Medvedchuk's appeal to be exchanged appeared, as instantly as Russian state propagandists turned on a mirror message that the British prisoners of the Russians and their puppets were asking Prime Minister Johnson to exchange them for Medvedchuk. That is, not the defenders of Mariupol for Medvedchuk, but the two Brits for Medvedchuk. This is instant use of familiar technology that we have talked about repeatedly, and they did the same thing about chemical weapons, the bombing of peaceful cities, and the massacre in Bucha. Russia is using reflective tactics and blaming everything on Ukraine. Let's move on. Talk about other fakes. In particular, Russian state propaganda resources have reported that the war in Ukraine seems to benefit primarily the US military-industrial complex. They refer to a statement by Japanese political scientist Jun Tamura. I did some research on the internet. The only reference to this person on the Russian language internet is made to this very statement, dated April the 18th. Lots of reposts on Russian state propaganda resources, Russia Today, Lenta.ru, and so on, where this political scientist is quoted. If you look back in the time, it is impossible to find any mention of this man in the past. If you look on the English language internet, this man is mentioned in an article dated back in 2019, where he expressed admiration for Russia's S-400 air defense system. The existence of such two contexts indicates that this person is very beneficial to Russian state propaganda in order to spread content and messages that are beneficial to them, to the general public. Propaganda lectures on justifying the war with Ukraine are held in Russian state universities. Often, instead of usual classes, students are engaged in propaganda directly during the educational process. It is also recommended to place a symbol of the war on the websites of universities, on the facades of buildings and in the auditoriums, the letter Z, which is currently banned as a symbol in Ukraine and most other civilized countries. At the same time, Russia is trying to create an illusion of supporting its actions on the European continent. In particular, they are collecting small numbers of supporters on demonstrations. Last week, such actions were held in Greece and Germany, and this week, in Nicosia, the capital of Cyprus, a small action was held with Russian symbols and calls for war on the territory of Ukraine. The explanation for such actions is actually very clear. In this way, Russia wants to show itself to be a victim, as paradoxical as it may sound. You remember the story of how they dispersed the story of the alleged arson of the Lomonosov school in Berlin, the alleged crucifixion of a new boy killed at the train station in Bonn, and other stories that are Russian fakes. This was reported by the official authorities of European countries. The goal of Russian propagandists is to change the attitude of European voters towards Russians, so that they put pressure on their politicians and, in turn, to reconsider their sanctions policy towards Russia. In the end, whether in the rubric of curiosity or madness, a message from a former Ukrainian member of parliament who betrayed the state and fled to Russia, Ilya Kiva. He claims that the arrest of Medvedchuk was a special operation directed by British intelligence MI6. He made this absolutely crazy statement on the air of the state Russian TV channel Russia Today. That is, the Russian state does not shy away from spreading lies directly on its official resources. Medvedchuk was abducted by special forces, put in a basement and waited for a convenient moment. Then we see Johnson's visit to Kyiv, an article in the Times about British prisoners of war, and in the evening of the same day, Zelensky's post about an allegedly brilliant special operation. Kiva continues to comment on his statement about the involvement of British MI6 in the arrest of Medvedchuk. Therefore, all his subsequent statements should be considered only from this point of view. He is simply not responsible for his actions and words. Well, and the last refutation of narratives of the Russian propagandists. It is alleged that the office of the President of Ukraine released the video and then quickly deleted it, trying to hide it from the public. In fact, they do not distinguish between social networks. This appeal was set out and remains on Instagram. It was not published on other social networks and accordingly was not deleted. But for state Russian propagandists, Instagram is already a closed zone, given that they themselves have banned this social network. Therefore, we advise them to either use a VPN or not to talk nonsense. This concludes the briefing. Dear friends, trust the Ukrainian armed forces, the Ukrainian political leadership and the Ukrainian mass media. See you, everything will be fine.